All right, everyone, welcome to another edition of the Good Life Small Business Podcast. I am your host, Brian Blakely, and I am pleased to be joined for this episode by David Lano, who is the owner of Control Yours here in Carmi. So, David, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's get into it here with some icebreakers so that we can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
What are some books that you're reading or listening to right now?
Sure, yeah. Well, as of late, I just got done reading through the Bible this last year and really been enjoying that. And I'm actually diving into Hebrews right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Studying Hebrews, kind of going into the deep end there.
Yeah, yeah.
Reading through commentaries, but I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, I've been doing that. I used to read a lot of business books, and I still enjoy business books, but right now that's kind of where I'm at.
Got it.
Yeah.
So are you doing like a one-year Bible plan?
I just did that for 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
And that was the first time I've ever actually read through the whole Bible, just from like start to finish. And,
yeah.
Really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very good. How about podcasts? Do you listen to many podcasts?
You know, I used to. It's pretty rare now, but I do. There's a handful of podcasts that I listen to. It kind of just depends on my mood and kind of what I'm going through or what
Sure.
I'm interested at the time. But I'll mention maybe three that I've listened to off and on. One is the Art of Manliness.
Okay.
Is a pretty interesting podcast, and they interview different guys, different people, and that's really a really entertaining one. Another one that I've listened to off and on is called Perpetual Traffic.
Okay.
And it's about setting up and managing and running like Facebook ads and Google ads, and they get pretty technical, but that's a really enjoyable one.
Okay.
And then another one is a little bit more on the spiritual side too, is there's a church in Kansas City called Redeemer Fellowship, and they have a really good podcast where they post their sermons. So
Got it.
I'll dip into that one too from time to time.
Got it. Very
Yeah.
cool. What was the name of the
Perpetual Traffic, yeah.
Okay.
Art of Manliness. And then I think the one from Redeemer is Redeemer Fellowship Midtown podcast or something like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
And I could give you links later too if you want those links.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's part of this. Part of the reason I asked this is it's selfish because I have way too many podcasts that I don't get to, but I'm always interested to hear new ones. So.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good ones out there, and yeah, I really probably, as far as like podcast, I mean, we're doing an interview right now.
Sure.
But I really enjoy the interview style podcast because it just kind of, I don't know, you get to kind of see that conversation between two people or more than two people. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot that you can glean from stuff like that type of content.
I've said before, I told someone that I'm kind of the same way. I like the podcasts where you kind of feel like you're a fly on the wall, where you're getting in on just kind of a normal conversation but you can learn a lot too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So with what you do, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but do you have time, like when you're working, can you get through a whole podcast and, listen to the whole thing? Or, or are you usually doing something outside of work when you're listening?
Usually I have to kind of be like driving or running or walking or something. I'm not a very good multitasker, so to be listening to a podcast while I'm working would not go so well.
Wouldn't go so well.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, let's just start out. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Control Yours?
Sure. Well, we've been around it'll be about 14 years now, I think, upcoming June. And we work with clients all different shapes and sizes. We've got small businesses, we've got large businesses. Primarily, we design and develop websites.
Okay.
That's kind of our bread and butter. But I would say in the last maybe 4 to 5 years, we've been getting a little bit more in the digital advertising space. So we'll set up and manage campaigns on Facebook and Google. So that's actually kind of what I spend a lot of my time on is that type of work. So I kind of geek out over stuff like that.
Yeah. Analytics and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool. Did you kind of work with a certain niche as far as a business goes when it comes to that side of it, or are you kind of a broad range across the board?
It's a whole range. I mean, sometimes like we've got some clients that just are they have like a personal blog, but they want a professional to, design it and help manage it. So we've got everything from that to much larger businesses that probably could even have like in-house people that would do that kind of thing, but for whatever reason they've chosen to hire that out.
Got it.
So I don't know. Does that answer your question, or is it?
Okay. The reason that I was asking that is, do you find that it is, as far as doing the target marketing, as far as different industries and different businesses? I mean, is it vastly different, or as far like a construction person that's or insurance, or maybe a restaurant where you're doing the social media marketing for them, or the digital marketing for them? Is it a lot different about how you approach that for each business?
It is. Yep. And we don't need to belabor this too much longer than we need to, but even just comparing like the Facebook ad platform to like Google's, I mean, they both kind of operate like in their own little sweet spot, So like, I mean, Google, you've got, and when I say Google advertising, I'm speaking primarily of their search-based ads. I mean, of course, you've got the whole YouTube ad network and stuff like that, but when it comes to search ads, the big thing that Google's got going for them is you've got the context of the person, whatever they're typing into the search. So you know a lot about their intent.
Sure. Yeah.
Whereas like with Facebook, you can target based off of demographics and interests and things like that.
Sure.
But, you're kind of just like hoping to catch that person while they're just browsing their feed on their couch, know? So it's a totally different kind of a situation.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
I like doing the social media side of it too, so that interests me a lot. So I'm sure it's different as far as how it all goes, but it's very cool.
Yeah, I'd say there's definitely businesses that are going to just, like we have some that we absolutely recommend that they be advertising in both platforms. And then there's other ones where, they've got a limited set budget, and we say, no, I think you're going to get way better results with Google or with Facebook, or, know, so.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is. It's hard to answer. I mean, it's all over the place.
Well, it's constantly changing too. I mean, when it comes to the analytics and search engine optimization and all that, it's constantly changing because the platforms change how they rank stuff. And so, I mean, for a small business owner, it's hard to keep on top of that.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice benefit where you can come in and say, hey, I think you're going to be best to spend your money here.
Yeah.
So you're not just kind of trying to throw something at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, the way that people scope out businesses and sign up for services and buy products, I mean, that's changing too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that, people are doing that. They're doing research and they're looking for things like that dramatically different than they did, 10 years ago.
Sure.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, even with COVID, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's just talk about Control Yours. Kind of take me through the journey of kind of how this all started.
Sure.
If you, I guess, as far back as you want to go and just bring us up to today, kind of the story for your small business.
Yeah. Well, when I was 7 years old now. Okay. So I kind of, it sort of all just came to pass. I don't know. I mean, I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, would you do things differently? I kind of jumped into it with both feet. I was working at the Buckle in their web systems department before I started Control Yours. And so that's what kind of got me a little bit acclimated to what technology can do. And they were kind of in this is a long time ago, probably almost, almost 20 years ago now.
Okay.
But they were just bringing Buckle.com in-house.
Okay.
So they had a company out in California manage it. And so they were just putting a team together to kind of, do that more in-house. And so I worked on that team there. I got an internship. I really was not the smartest guy in the room. I shouldn't have probably been there, but I learned a lot there.
Right out of college?
I never actually completed college,
okay.
But it was, kind of in an in-between there.
Okay.
And I learned the possibilities of technology and especially the web. But then I think I also learned, and nothing against the Buckle because I think they're a great company, but I also learned that the corporate environment was just not really for me.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I've always kind of been an entrepreneur, but yeah, I ended up with a partner, started Control Yours, and we just kind of, we were pretty naive. At least, I should speak for myself.
Yeah.
But we just jumped right into it. And I was in a place in my life too where I didn't, thankfully with this type of a business, there's not like a ton of overhead or,
Sure.
Some businesses, you've got to have all your ducks in a row before
right.
you But I really kind of just bootstrapped and kind of went in little by little.
Got it.
Yeah.
So when you started at the Buckle, did you have an interest in web design and things like that, or was it just kind of an internship where you were feeling it out to see if you even liked that?
Yeah.
That
well,
industry?
I was actually working nights at a gas station, and my mom did not like that so much, and so she and actually, yeah. Long story short, they were just putting this team together, and the gentleman at the time that was starting that team went to our church, and so we had him over for lunch, and I think my mom was basically pleading with him, like, is there anything that you can give my son to get him out of this gas station?
Sure. Hey,
yeah,
whatever works.
And praise God, it was a good thing for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what year did you start Control Yours?
Let's see, it was 2007.
Okay.
So
you've been at it 14 years?
Yep, it'll be 14 years in June.
So did you start in this location? Did you start somewhere else?
We just started kind of out of my apartment. We didn't have an office space or anything like that.
Okay.
Kind of did that for the first few years, and then we actually worked in the basement of baristas for a while, which worked out well because I could just walk upstairs and have meetings with people and drink coffee.
Yeah.
And then we moved into this space here on Railroad Street, maybe 8 years ago now, 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, because I was just talking with someone the other day about they're looking to get a small business started.
Sure.
And they're kind of looking at where they should start as far as, they want to show people that they are good at their craft.
Yeah.
But they don't really know where to start or how to get their foot in the door. How did you guys go about just kind of initially getting clients?
Oh man, it's embarrassing to say this. Okay, well I should first say that I was, like I mentioned earlier, I was very naive when I first started the business. And I just had this assumption that, if you do good work and you have a good product, whatever, you build it, they will come kind of a thing. And oh boy, is that not true. At least it wasn't for us. And so I remember, just sitting down with my partner at the time and just kind of, writing down numbers and we can build, this many websites in this amount of time. And, we had no clue how difficult it'd be to actually build trust and gain credibility, and try to convince someone that they should trust us and have us manage their website for them or build it for them. It's like their baby, their business. So that was really, really difficult and totally unexpected. So, we did a lot of cold calling. Going door to door. We pretty much did just about anything we could do.
Yeah.
Discounted our services significantly. Tried to work out deals, slowly but surely. Got a few people to kind of buy in, and then it was really just a matter of then kind of building up that credibility and saying, well, hey, we just built the site for, so-and-so, and then eventually over time, more and more people knew the clients that we'd worked with, and so that kind of just organically grew over time. But yeah, that was a major challenge early on. So yeah, I don't know your question about what to encourage them to do. I think, and it's going to be different for every business.
Sure.
For our art industry, trust is a really, really big deal. So that was probably one of our biggest hurdles is, how do you establish trust when you're brand new and you're just, you look like kids,
Yeah.
So it's going to be different for everyone, whether it's like a service-based business or product or whatever, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to answer that definitively based off of all those variables.
But by the time, when you started the business though, websites, I guess I don't really remember. It's hard to believe I can't remember this far back, but I'm trying to think. Websites were pretty much, were they a standard quo, if you were starting a business, a website was something that you had?
Well, not when we started, no. Okay. In fact, and partly why we're called Control Yours is back in the day, traditionally when a business had a website, they wouldn't be doing any of that in-house. It's way technical and a lot more difficult to manage. And so it was a really convoluted type of relationship really between the business and maybe the developer. And so, they would asked to have something simple changed, and it would take weeks to, you know, so
Sure.
It was right around the time when there were more like content management systems coming out, like WordPress and others. And that's when my partner and I were just like, this is, you know, we want the business to feel like they're in control of what's theirs.
Sure.
You know, we want them to be able to make some of those changes and this of course was way before, like, you know, a lot of the DIY site builders came out. So, and there's still a place for that, absolutely. In fact, a lot of people that'll come to me, if they're just getting started and they don't have a big budget, a lot of times I'll actually recommend that they maybe start with something like that, just because it's going to be way more cost effective. And then a lot of times they'll end up coming back to us in a year or two once they've kind of built up the business and they want to have a little bit more control over the website or have it be a little more custom.
Yeah, absolutely. So how long do you think it took you before, from your portfolio standpoint or the companies you were working with, to where you kind of felt like you had gained some ground, at least in Kearney? Was it 6 months, a year?
Oh, it was probably 5 to 7 years.
Yeah?
So, I mean, early on, I was mowing yards. I was, you know, I was basically doing anything just to try and, you know, get cash besides that. Because, I mean, it just, that was one of those situations where we just needed time, you know?
Right. And I don't know, I just think that is so important. And your story is the same as a lot of small business owners where, you got your small business, but you're keeping your regular job, you're doing side jobs, mowing yards, whatever you have to do. And you didn't give up after 6 months. You didn't give up after 6 years. You know, you kept going. And I just think that it's important that it's not going to come easy all the time. Sometimes it will, you know, once in a while, but it takes a lot of time, and you just have to. But so there had to be passion there for you. Like you were passionate about this. You wanted to see this go through, and you just got through those tough times.
And I still am. And I mean, it's an honor and a privilege, truly, to work with. You know, one of the joys that I have of having my own business and being able to work with, you know, we work with, you know, almost 200 clients, you know, that we work with every single month, and we manage their websites. And so I get to rub shoulders with all these really smart people, you know, and learn from them and, you know, hear some of their struggles, and, you know, they're kind of being vulnerable with us and we're able to be vulnerable with them. And it's I think a really beautiful thing. And there's just so much, it's just always different. And I thrive off of that. I think just you know, every day is different. The challenges are different. And you just get to learn a lot.
And innovate. I mean, in your industry, you probably get the opportunity to innovate quite a bit and do different things. So that makes it fun. Very cool. So what's your favorite part, and maybe you've already mentioned this, but what's your favorite part about being a small business owner? Is it that every day is different?
I think that's part of it. I think too, though, it's some of the flexibility and the control of being able to determine how you serve people. You know, I kind of have maybe a particular, I don't know if philosophy is the right way to put it, but a particular way that I want to serve people. You know, I really want to be respectful of them. I want to listen to them. I want to be, I want to learn from them, and I want them to learn from me. And so I think, you know, when you run your own business, you can kind of create that sort of culture or that environment, not just for your own people, your own staff, but you can also sort of choose who you end up working with too.
Absolutely.
So I really do enjoy that aspect of it. I think I would have a hard time working in an environment where, you know, I had to shortcut certain things that I didn't feel like should be shortcutted, or you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So is this whole small business venture what you thought it would be?
Well, like I said, I was pretty naive in the early days, and still probably am to some degree, but so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I just knew that I saw what I thought was an opportunity to try and help people out and do something that I thought there was a need for. So I don't know. I guess I didn't really have any preconceived notions of what it would be per se.
Was there ever a time in those first years when you were just kind of getting things going, was there ever a time where you thought about packing it in and just saying, I don't want to do this anymore?
Boy, that's
in an
a
honest
question.
moment?
Yeah. I don't know if I ever got to that point. I mean, of course, so many moments of frustration and discouragement, or you feel like you've just, let people down or had done something that, you wish you could redo.
Sure.
No, I don't know though. I think I've always enjoyed the work enough and enjoyed working with the people enough where I've never despaired quite to that point. Yeah.
Seems like there's always something that kind of brings you back, gives you hope.
Yeah.
It's kind of like golf where you can go out and golf 18 holes and 99% of your shots are terrible, but if you got 2 or 3 good shots, that's what keeps you coming back.
Right. That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. And I really do always appreciate, every now and then, totally, we'll get a client that'll just kind of surprise us with a really nice thank you note, or and it's those little things too that really like push you over. Like, okay, I can do this.
Keeps going.
Yeah,
just when you need them. Yeah.
Yep.
So there's so much that you have to maintain and manage and be on top of a small business owner. What's one thing that you wish you were better at when it came to your small business?
Yeah. I feel like there's always room for improvement with just how we communicate with our clients. I think partly because of the industry that we're in, technology can be really confusing for people.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much jargon that kind of comes with it too. Yeah. And so that's something that I've been trying to practice as a craft and get better at, mm-hmm. but I feel like there's always room for improvement there. Yeah. Trying to come up with better analogies or just trying to explain it, because I never want to, again, we work with people that are most often a lot smarter than I am, and you want to be able to just truly respect them and not talk down to them or, dumb things down. You just want to make sure that you can be very clear in how you communicate. So I think that's something that's always a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
And I don't think I'm the same way in my industry. I can get to a place where I'm talking too much insurance terms and I'm not talking in real life terms.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what industry it is, you get your own jargon and your own acronyms or whatever it is.
Right.
And you kind of need to take a step back and be like, okay, if I'm trying to explain this to a 5th grader, how's this conversation going to go?
Right.
Because I can tell, I can get 15 or 20 minutes in an appointment and people's eyes start to glaze over and I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose them here.
Right. And you're not doing anyone any favors, by you're just wasting their time and absolutely. And so you kind of, you're right. You kind of have to kind of be in both worlds, because you obviously need to know all of the, the nitty gritty of all the, insurance speak. Mm-hmm. Because you're a professional, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you're able to communicate that effectively. So that is a challenge.
And you want people to feel like they have an idea of the service you're providing too. Like if they can explain it to a friend, that only benefits you too if the friend needs some help. So that's a challenge no matter what industry it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk. A question that we ask is about the pandemic, and I guess just kind of talk about how COVID-19 affected your business. We're almost a year into it now, but and if you want to go back to late February, March, and kind of what the year of 2020 looked like for you and kind of how it affected your business.
Sure. Yeah. In some ways, I wouldn't say that it affected us too much, thankfully. I know a lot of businesses, it was entirely disruptive. We had some, just because we do serve such a wide array of clients, mm-hmm.
Some
of our clients did have to kind of scale back just because they were trying to cut costs.
Sure.
So we had a little bit of that, but then we also had some new business come in too, some businesses that had maybe been kind of dragging their feet just a little bit. Knew that they needed to be doing a little bit more online, but had been, for whatever reason, had been kind of putting it off.
Yeah.
And COVID was maybe the thing that kind of pushed them to say, okay, we gotta bite the bullet here, and we gotta do something about this because we know that our customers are going to be wanting to interact with us digitally.
Sure.
So it kind of all evened out for us. Yeah.
It seems like you hear that story a lot, and even doing these, not just the podcast, but talking with people where, as a small business owner, you can put things off that maybe aren't as necessary as bringing in an income.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise when your hand is forced. And you probably saw that too, where people, whether it was, maybe restaurants that needed to improve the way their online menu looked because people were ordering out more or offering a new service or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Sometimes
when your hand is forced, it can be a good thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Cool. Very good. You talked about this a little bit, but is there any advice you would give yourself when you were starting in your apartment, leaving the buckle, and just getting started with this thing?
I think I really underestimated the need to have good marketing. Again, I think I kind of had the mentality of, build it and they will come.
Yeah.
And, or, oh, hey, I've got a really good service or good product, like, I don't really need to advertise, that kind of stuff. And I know there's even a lot of businesses out there that say that they don't, that they're just word of mouth purely. Mm-hmm. And I think 9 times out of 10, those are businesses that they're mature enough where they get enough of that kind of repeat business because they are actually doing a really good job serving their customers. Yeah. And that's a totally different situation than someone just starting out. Because when you're starting out, nobody knows you, and you're starting from square one. So I think I would have hopefully somehow graciously told myself, like, David, you've got to you got to think about this marketing stuff. Think through all the details, and how are you planning on what's your offer? Do you have a good offer? Or what's the how can you convince someone to consider working with you?
Yeah. Was there anything as far as social media when you guys were getting going?
Oh yeah. I mean, there was Facebook and Twitter and.
But were businesses using Facebook really?
Oh, that's a good question. I suppose some were. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, those were the heydays of when you would post something on your Facebook page and people would see it. You know? The algorithm wasn't just like stuffing it down and only showing ads to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just when you would have been, because you really kind of had a niche market when you were going out to websites, because the traditional, the radio, the TV, newspaper, billboards, those still had some pull back then. I mean, there were still, as far as advertising and marketing and things like that, those were still a big part of it.
For sure.
Where now, I think especially for small business owners, your online presence is huge.
Yeah.
Like you have to have an online presence of some sort.
Right. If nothing else, I think as a supportive kind of thing, so like, because if, let's say you have a friend that recommends like, oh, Brian, you've got to work with Control Yours. I mean, that might be enough for you to then go and look us up online or something, but you want to start, you want to see reviews, or you want to kind of scope things out. You don't necessarily just always take the word of your friend's advice and just run with it, you know? So yeah, oftentimes it's kind of like a supportive kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people start to interview you. I'm using air quotes here, but interview you by doing the research online. Yeah. And if they're intrigued and want to work with you, then they'll send an email, pick up the phone, whatever maybe, message you, however that works. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you had someone that came up to you and said, David, I want to start a business, what advice would you give me? What would that be?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think first things first, again, depending on the nature of the business or the model, or like, how much capital you need to have, or all of your expenses. Again, like I said, with our situation, we were able to kind of bootstrap and kind of start from nothing.
Sure.
But not every business is like that. I know some businesses, you gotta have all the machinery, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So I think maybe one very important thing is just to make sure that you've got like a long enough of a runway to really give it a good fighting chance. You know, I think some businesses, again, maybe because they are really optimistic, which is a good quality for an entrepreneur.
Sure.
But the runway is just too short. They maybe were doing all the right things. They maybe had an excellent product, excellent service, but they couldn't quite turn that around until they ran out of cash or whatever. And that was the thing that was kind of the fatal blow, you know?
Yeah.
So I think having enough of a runway, depending on what type of a business you have, is critical. I think really having a good grasp on the marketing, I think, is really good. I think another thing too, and this is probably true for all entrepreneurs, but just, you know, you can't be good at everything. And so I think making sure that you sort of fill in the gaps with what you're not good at. You know, you either hire those things out or you try and hire the right people to work with you. You know, even from like day one, accounting was not my thing. So, you know, from day one, I worked with HMCK here in Kearney, and they've been my, accountants since day one. And, getting some of those relationships kind of built up and confirmed and established early on is critical, because you can't do it all.
Yeah, it is a fine line. There are just some things as a small business owner that just take, an accountant that can take care of quarterlies for you or payroll or whatever.
Right.
Some of that stuff that, you may not have the money for it, but you need to budget because the stress and the, taxes are something that could get pushed off, and you don't want to do that.
Right. And just being honest about it, you know, like you don't have to be great at everything, and really leverage the things that you are good at. Make sure that you can spend your time on those things, because that's where you're going to get the most, bang for your buck, so to speak. But I think so. I think, or just, ignoring some of those things. I think, again, too, some entrepreneurs, they kind of, bury their head in the sand and, they look at what they are able to do well, and they just kind of assume that everything else will just kind of work itself out magically. And that's not always the case.
Usually doesn't happen like that.
Right.
Cool. So how can people find out more about you and Control Yours?
Well, you can look us up online. Our website is controlyours.com. So definitely look us up there. In fact, we're working on a new version of our website that will be coming out soon. So that'll have, we're kind of getting a revamp. Like I mentioned earlier, we're doing a lot more with digital advertising these days. And so, whether or not you have a website or not, I would love the opportunity to talk with people, have them consider us for building out and helping manage a successful Facebook or Google campaign. I love it. It's what I enjoy doing. I love looking at the numbers, and ultimately it's incredible seeing how that can affect businesses. Some of our clients, and they'll vouch for this too, they said that it's doubled their business, just by starting on some of those things. So whether or not they're doing advertising right now through other channels or not, whether maybe they're not doing anything, or maybe they already are, I think a lot of people, it just intimidates them, It's technical, and maybe they'll do like the occasional boosted post on Facebook or something, but in terms of like actually putting all the pieces together and putting some thought into it and building a whole strategy, I think a lot of people haven't maybe tried that out yet. And we have a really unique approach of doing that, where we actually, we kind of lay everything out so that you can see how everything works together. So, you've got a lot of data in Facebook and Google, which is great. But a lot of times what people will do is they will set up a campaign, and Google will say, okay, great, you paid me, $500, and you got 50 people to go to your website. And then it's kind of like, all right, my job is done, know? And then it's end of story, but you kind of wonder like, okay, well then, is this giving me good ROI or what? So what we do is we actually put in a lot of tracking metrics on the website. So we're able to kind of connect all those dots all the way through and show our clients in real time, like, hey, this is how many people actually engaged with your website. They, expanded boxes, they looked at things that we wanted them to look at, etc. And then this is how many people actually converted and did the thing that you were hoping that they would do. So that's incredibly insightful for business owners and marketing executives, because then they can determine, how they want to allocate their budget. So
Two questions on that, and maybe just the first one's a comment, but I think that as a small business owner, that really is a tool that you can use, where in the past, if you were doing a newspaper ad or a radio ad or something like that, you put it out there so it was more top of mind.
Yeah.
But you couldn't, even if someone called in, it's hard to measure that, and you can't target the specific demographic you're going after. And so, as a small business owner, that's something that helps you compete. It helps you grow your business, and especially if you're going after a niche, that's something that's huge. So
yeah,
it's something to really look at. The question I've got, and this may be a moving target and kind of hard to answer, but how long should people, if they're looking to do a campaign?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of variables here, but how long should someone give a campaign? Like a month, 3 months? Like how much time should they expect to be able to put into this before they're going to start to see some results? Because it's not, I think that's part of the deal with social media is people will post something for a week, and if they don't get the response they want, they just quit.
Right. Yeah, well, that's a really, really good question. Maybe I'll start by saying most of the campaigns that we create are what we would call like evergreen campaigns. So it's like it's something that like, okay, so like, for us, like our website membership is sort of like the core of our business. It's what all of our clients subscribe to. They pay us a monthly fee, and we manage their website for them.
Sure.
So like, let's say I'm setting up a campaign for us. That would be my main goal. I mean, I would ultimately want someone to click on our ad, and maybe they would need to kind of go through multiple cycles or multiple touch points before they would actually, become a client of ours. But the hope would be that they would become a member. And so there's a lot of like strategy and thought that kind of goes into building that type of a campaign. It's not just like a one and done, like, 1 quarter and then you turn it off kind of a thing. So most of the time when we try and build campaigns like that, we try to really match it with kind of the core product or service that business has to offer. And they may have several, but we start with maybe the most lucrative or something.
What their focus is.
Exactly. Something that they can just always have running. And the big benefit of that, and I think is what you're kind of getting to, is really to leverage the algorithm for Facebook or Google is to feed it lots of data. And so you're going to only benefit by having a longer running campaign because you're just going to be giving it a lot more feedback, quality cues as to whether or not people are, engaging with the ad or doing the things that you want them to do or not. So yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, it's very short-sighted, and it's very much so like, oh, we have a 10% off sale. I want to run this ad, and I mean, you can do stuff like that, but and then they'll just run it for a few days, and they'll kind of see mediocre results. And I think, unfortunately, that's kind of how they maybe leave. They kind of walk away with a bit of a disappointment there because it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
There needs to be, and I'm guilty of this myself. You've gotta be willing to invest the time, but you've also got to be willing to invest the money if you want to see a return. And it's your return on investment's more down the road. Yeah. Initially, you got to get that credibility, and you just got to get your feet underneath you for the social media you're trying to do. It seems like that's when you're gonna have more success. Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good.
I mean, like anything, I suppose, what you put into it, you kind of get out of it, or at least that's the hope. But and that's why, again, though, I really try to encourage people that are wanting to do this kind of a thing to pick something that's going to be really beneficial for them, really think about it a little bit bigger than maybe what they're initially thinking of it as, instead of just like a temporary sale kind of a thing. Yeah. Because I think the more that you're able to tie that into the core of your business, it's worth making a little bit more of an investment into it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a really good question.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I could sit here and talk about
I know, well, me too. I know.
I kind of geek out on this stuff too, so we could talk all night, but I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your story. Thanks for sharing with us. And if you want to know more, controlyours.com. Yep. Can they find you on social as well?
Yep. Look us up on Facebook or Instagram, mostly on Facebook. But just go to our website. You can call us anytime. You can live chat with us. So we're here. We're very approachable, and we're always open to just sitting down and meeting with you. We're not going to pressure you into doing anything right away. We know that this kind of stuff, people need to kind of mull it over for a while. I mean, it's a big decision. If you're going to build a new website or kind of do a revamp, there's a lot of moving parts, and so we're totally okay with and enjoy and welcome just kind of a casual conversation to talk things through. We like to actually do that really early on in the stage of things. It's actually really helpful. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for this opportunity.
Hey, no problem. Thanks, Dave.
Yep.